Initializing a list to a known number of elements in Python. Right now I am using a list, and was expecting something like, should I use array instead?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is, but do you really need to pre-initialize it?
Not quite sure why everyone is giving you a hard time for wanting to do this. There are several scenarios where you want a fixed size initialized list. And you've correctly deduced that arrays are sensible in these cases. For the non-Pythonistas, the 0*1000 term is creating a tuple containing 1000 zeros. The comma forces Python to recognize 0 as a tuple, otherwise it would be evaluated as 0. I've used a tuple instead of a list because they generally have lower overhead.
One obvious and probably not efficient way is, note that this can be extended to 2-dimension easily. For example, to get a 10 by 100 array, you can do
wanting to initialize an array of fixed size is a perfectly acceptable thing to do in any programming language. It isn't like the programmer wants to put a break statement in a while true loop. Believe me, especially if the elements are just going to be overwritten and not merely added/subtracted, like is the case of many dynamic programming algorithms, you don't want to mess around with append statements and checking if the element hasn't been initialized yet on the fly. That's a lot of code gens. Object equals 0 for x in range 1000. This will work for what the programmer is trying to achieve.
Steve already gave a good answer to your question. Warning, as Joachim Wuck pointed out, the list must be initialized with an immutable element. *1000 does not work as expected because you will get a list of 1000 identical lists, similar to a list of 1000 points to the same list in C. Immutable objects like int, str, or tuple will do fine. Alternatives. Resizing lists is slow. The following results are not very surprising. But resizing is not very slow if you don't have very large lists. Instead of initializing the list with a single element, e.g. none, and a fixed length to avoid list resizing, you should consider using list comprehensions and directly fill the list with correct values. For example, comparison to numpy. For huge dataset numpy or other optimized libraries are much faster.